Good morning, this is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. I wanted to make sure and wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. I hope you had a great holiday and a super fantastic upcoming new year. So that is the first thing that I wanted to start off with. And today we are going to be talking about our New Year's resolutions for knitting and crochet, and maybe some ideas of resolutions that we might have that are worth keeping. You know how we all tend to make, on occasion, resolutions that we don't keep? Well, these might be ones that you're going to enjoy and you're going to want to keep because the rewards so outweigh the little bit of work that you have to put into learning them. So anyways, and I'm a firm believer in doing my goals for the year, and the reason why my husband and I, we both do our goals, and that is because when you write your goals down, and I'm a fan of using, I know a lot of people don't use paper anymore, but I still use my day planners. And this is the one from last year, and this year I have my new one ready. I normally used to use the Franklin Covey ones, but these ones are kind of nice because it's spiral bound and they're inexpensive. And so I've kind of made these work for me, and I kind of use the techniques that I learned with Franklin Covey and the Franklin Day Planner that we have used for, oh gosh, has it been more than 20 years, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyways, and so what I like to do at the beginning of the year, Jim and I will go through our different goals, and we talk about maybe travel goals, financial goals, and of course I love my knitting and crochet goals, and our exercise goals, and maybe our ways that we're going to honor God, or charity things that we want to do to give back for all that we have been given. It's nice to be able to give back to others. And so we go through all those things at the beginning of the year, and then we try and fit them into our monthly schedule and weekly schedule, and just define what those are going to be. So at the end of the year, we have this huge progress that we've made towards, you know, meeting our goals, and we feel great about what we've accomplished for the year. And we try not to let life just, you know, move along and not be the creator of our daily schedule. So we want to be able to control our days, not have our days controlling us. So that's fantastic. Anyways, today I had a couple projects that I'm going to be, what I was working on this weekend. And I had this first project that I'm doing. It is right here, and it's called the Copycat Beanie. And I've just started it, and what it is it involves a folded over brim. And see, Jim, I just started it this morning. You see my folded over brim here? And I was thinking that one of those New Year's resolutions that we might want to keep and we might want to have for a resolution is learning how to do this provisional cast on. Because when I was reading reviews for this hat, a lot of people were struggling with doing the provisional cast on. And then when I was doing this helmet liner, and this one is one that I'm doing for my husband, and it's not quite finished yet, and I have a little ways to go, but I used a provisional cast on for this one too. And I heard several people who had done the project say, I wish I had done a provisional cast on, but I didn't want to take the time to figure it out, or I didn't want to do it because it was too much work. And when I do a provisional cast on, I don't find it any harder or more difficult than regular knitting. Maybe it's a few minutes longer, but the results of what your projects look like when you're done are so far outweigh that little bit of extra effort that you had to put into your provisional cast on that it is definitely a skill worth learning. So I wanted to show you that today. And right here I have a little tiny bit of my provisional cast on here, and I have a stitch marker holding it. So if you're unzipping your provisional cast on to join the hat to make a double thick brim, you can stick a little tiny one of these safety pin stitch markers right in that spot, and then you can come back to it when you're ready to continue taking out that provisional cast on. Another little trick that I wanted to tell you about that I use all the time is when I'm picking up my provisional cast on and putting it on my needles, I don't use the same size needle that I'm going to be knitting with. I use a much smaller needle because I find that the smaller needle is easier to get into the stitches and pick up that provisional cast on, where if it was a great big fat needle, I would have a hard time picking up the stitches. But with a little tiny soft needle, it is super easy. So let me show you how I do this. And Jim, I'm going to come around to you so that I can show it. You can show them right over my back. And I have picked up most of my provisional cast on anyway. And so I'm just doing a little tiny bit so you can see what I'm doing. So I have my safety pin here, and this is my provisional cast on, and it's done with scrap yarn. And you just, any old scrap yarn, they say to use scrap yarn that's about the same size as the yarn that you're knitting with, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same size. I use what I can use. So if you look right here, I pull up the stitch. You see this new stitch is right here. So I would get right under that stitch, and I'm using 2 yarns carried together. And then see how I unzip that? So let me show you a few more. So I'm going to yank this up so I can see my stitch that I'm going to be putting on the needle. See it right there? And then I unzip one more. And then here's my next one. Put it right on there. And you see how the little tiny needle's really easy to get underneath the stitch. So that's a little trick that I've learned to do. And you should try that because you guys, it might really help you pick up the stitches and make it easier. Maybe if it's a little bit easier for you, you will want to do the provisional cast on and give it a try. But it's really not very hard to do. And so if you take that little time to learn a couple new skills here and there, by the end of the year, you'll have so many more tools in that toolbox that we're talking about. There you go. That was the last stitch from that provisional cast on. See, that was my slip knot right there. So I just take this out. One second, let me pull it the other way. Let's pull it all the way. It's stuck on something. Sorry, Jen. Should pull all the way out. There you go. Now it's all on there. Okay, then you got to get things untangled here and bring that through, and then what you do is you fold this over. So you would fold it over.
And what's the purpose of your doing this?
Well, so you have a double thick brim, see? And then what you would start doing, you got to get all your tails. You can take your tails that you have and leave them on the outside and weave them in later, or you can go ahead and weave them in right then. You can do whatever. I kind of like to leave them on the outside of my work and then work from there. And so what I would do is take this other, right here's the needle, and then I would just begin knitting. Remember that I'm using 2 strands of yarn on here. So I have, here's my work, and I'm going to be doing, you would grab 1 stitch from your needle that you're knitting on and 1 stitch from your back needle, and you would just go ahead and knit it. And then you take that one off, and then you're joining. See? You got to be careful because I have 2 strands of yarn on here, and we want to make sure and knit both of them. There you go, and you just start knitting, and you see how I'm joining it? It's joined. So that's all you do to join it, and when you're done, your join is absolutely beautiful. And then you have that double thick brim, and it's fantastic. I would highly recommend that you guys learn how to do this. Now I'm going to show you how to do the actual part of the provisional cast on, how you get the stitches on the actual needle so you can use it. Okay, so first of all, you start with a slip knot and some scrap yarn. And when you're doing your provisional cast on, make sure you don't use the same yarn that you're knitting with, because if you do, you can't see your work when you go to unzip your stitches. And it'll be harder for you. So do you see how I have, you take your working yarn and you put it behind your needle, and I have that crochet hook there in place, and then you just do, like, you know how you chain stitches for crochet? It's the same thing. You're chaining stitches. See? And so when I'm doing my crochet cast on, it's just, you just have to remember to keep your working yarn, just flip it behind the needle and then do a chain stitch, and then flip it behind the needle and do a chain stitch, and flip it behind the needle and chain stitch. And you do this however many times that you need to, and then when you're done, you would go ahead and go 1, 2, 3. And then this is where, if you had that many stitches to cast on, this is the side that you unzip, the side with 3 chain stitches, not the side where there's no chain. Because if you tried to do it from here, it would be sort of like if you're taking out your work from the bottom of your hat, like your cast on edge on this hat right here. If you're taking out your work from the cast on edge, it's downright difficult to do, because you can't just pull it. You have to pull every single strand out. It's like recreating the wheel. It's annoying. But if I were to take out, starting up here at the very top where I knit my last stitch, where the working yarn is, that would unzip beautifully. So when you're doing the provisional cast on, where you cast on your last stitch is where you want to unzip it, because then it works out great. Also, another trick I wanted to tell you is when you're knitting and you're doing a provisional cast on, say you get all the way to the end and you realize that you accidentally cast on 2 extra stitches, just take them off the needle like so and just straighten your project out. See how you can take it off? It doesn't affect the actual project, and you can still unzip it. Okay, so I learned that by accident because I was working on a project and I was doing this provisional cast on, and I accidentally cast on a couple extra stitches, and I was going to start over, and then I thought, well, what if I drop them off the needle and just, will it stay there or will it screw up the provisional cast on? And I'm like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to have to redo it. So I tried it, and it did not affect the cast on. So if you ever get stuck in that situation where you've cast on a few extra stitches, you go ahead and just take it off the needle, and it works perfectly. So anyway, also on this pattern that I have been doing, this Copycat Beanie, which is a very popular pattern on Ravelry. And it's a free pattern, so you can look at it there. It's really cute. It is ribbing, and it is, it's one of those very common ski hats that you find in the ski shops. And the reason why they call it the Copycat Beanie is the designer was actually trying to copy that actual hat. And I forget the name brand of the hat, but it is very, very common. If you saw the pattern on Ravelry, you'd know. You've seen it before. All of you have probably seen it. And I am trying out this new yarn right now. It's by Haiku, and it's called O, and it's 100% super baby alpaca, and I'm totally loving this yarn. It has a chain net construction, which I like with the alpaca because it stabilizes the actual yarn itself, and it looks beautiful, and it wears better with the chain net construction. And then I decided to carry this Kid Silk Haze, and that is with the O to give it a little more like halo. Do you see the halo on there? And I was also thinking that if you wanted halo on your projects, then you could also use this. It's called Halo Watercolors, and you can carry this along with your other yarns. And I know these colorways look kind of loud, but when you actually carry them along with your other yarns, it's very subtle. It doesn't, it's not in your face addition. It just adds a bit of halo and is very subtle. So that is beautiful. And here's a couple different yarns in this Rowan Kid Silk Haze. And a very, very popular yarn. And
got lots of people online
anyway,
saying hi.
Yeah, so all of you that are out there, as we're going along, if you can tell us where you're from and what you're working on, that's totally fantastic. And if you can push that like button, and share with your friends. We can all learn from each other, and that's fantastic. And then we also love hearing about what you're working on and maybe the pattern names and etc. And for this last week, every week we have a prize, right? So this last week we had the custom quarter, and this makes wonderful cording for your knitwear or crochet wear projects, and it's totally fun. So I thought that'd be a great prize. And the prize for this week is my baggie. It's 2 different little baggies, and it has these little magnets that attract your needles on them, and they also stick together because of the magnets on them, and they have little zippered closure. Really cute for little notions and things. And I love the see-through bags because you can tell what you have in your bag and you won't forget anything because you'll be able to see right away that you don't have it. So I love see-through bags and bins and all that kind of stuff. It works great for me. So anyway, also we are having a great sale right now. It's after Christmas sale, and there are some fantastic savings on Alpaca Direct. So if you want to go there and take a look at what we have on sale, or you're interested in getting some yarn and things, you look on there and you might find something you like. So take a look at that. And then, also on the 10th of January, we are going to be doing a knit along, and that knit along is going to be with Kyle Kennick. And I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but he is with the Haiku and Skazelle, and he is going to be using this Simply Kriya. And I've decided to go neutral this time. Because I love brown colorways, decided I'm going to use this new grizzly colorway, and along with this it's almost like a tan. It's really pretty, almost a little taupey, but that'll be nice. So those are the ones that I'm going to use for mine, and so I'm looking forward to that. So now let's get back to our topic that we're talking about today, which is talking about our goals. Yes. And so I wanted to go over that and maybe talk to you about how I did my goal setting for my knitting and crochet. So some things that I was thinking about is I saw this 85-year-old, and or maybe she was 90. She was
97.
older than that.
97.
Okay, and it was posted on our Facebook group and the VIP group, and she was still knitting even though she had almost lost her eyesight entirely. But she had a friend that would help her put the pieces together, and she was still knitting and knitting for charity, which was totally awesome. Now, if it was me and I'm thinking, what am I going to be doing when I'm 85? I definitely still want to be knitting, right? So one of my goals that I have is taking care of myself. How am I going to be taking care of myself, maybe doing exercises for my hands, so that when I am 85, my hands and my joints and everything are healthy enough so that I can continue knitting. What I don't want to do is wear out my joints and not be able to knit when I'm 85. So I am definitely putting that on my goal setting for this year, to be able to start doing that, start taking care of my hands, do some research, figure out exercises that I can do that'll keep my hands, my wrists, and all my joints active and healthy so that I can knit for a very long time, because I want to be able to do it. I think that knitting is so fantastic and crocheting is so fantastic, being able to look at patterns and do patterns. It keeps your brain active and going. And I think that's great because, you know, as we get older, we do still want to be thinking and keep our brain sharp as a tack so that we can keep learning and helping others and helping our grandkids and, you know, running around with them and helping them. So that will definitely be on my list for goals that I'll be doing. And then also I was thinking, what about if we had a goal that was learning one new skill per month, that we could memorize it and learn it and just totally learn every single thing about it. Maybe we have to use the cards, little sticky notes, what have you, to put in your car. So maybe we're going to put a sticky note that says Kitchener, knit off purl, purl off knit, and we're going to stick it on our window, you know, so that we know when we go to stockinette and we're going to Kitchener that together, we're going to knit off purl, purl off knit. And then guess what? After about a week of looking at that sticky note, you're like, oh, I know how to do Kitchener stitch. It's knit off purl, purl off knit. Totally easy. So that is ideas. Those are things that I like to do to be able to learn new skills and commit them to memory. And then when other people need help, or when I'm not in where there's internet, I mean, we have been in Brunei or wherever it's been, and we have had no internet access, or at least the internet was lagging and maybe slow. And so my ability to be able to know how to do these skills and not be afraid to do them has kept me knitting through my projects and kept me being able to go forward, move forward on my skills and my knitting. And I didn't need internet access, and I could actually show other people how to do it as well. So I can teach other people, and that's just one more skill that I like to have in my toolbox. So I was also thinking about questions that you can ask yourself. Are your goals concrete, and can you measure them? What I mean by that is, say I'm going to learn Kitchener stitch. Okay. I'm going to learn Kitchener stitch by the end of January. I will be able to do a project and be able to do Kitchener from start to finish without having to look it up online. Then you go to your day planner and you start scheduling time. So maybe every Monday in January, I am going to take my samples. I'm going to knit 2 samples of yarn, and I am going to do Kitchener. And then I'm going to take it apart, and then I'm going to Kitchener. Then I'm going to take it apart. Then I'm going to Kitchener. That's an easy way to learn Kitchener, is just using 2 sample pieces of fabric without having to knit a whole project just to be able to do Kitchener. So that is a way that you can do it that doesn't take up a lot of time and that you can learn it quickly, you know. And maybe you're going to make postcards that tell, you know, what that Kitchener is, or maybe you want to learn how to do cabling without a cable needle. So you're going to do the same thing. Maybe you can make little samples where you're cabling without a cable needle. Maybe you can figure out what they're doing and say, how do they hold, when do they hold the yarn in front and when do they hold it in back? And how does this make sense to me? So you can actually understand why it's being done. Because a lot of times I find that when I'm learning a new skill, if I can understand why they're doing what they're doing, I don't have to memorize it because I understand it. It's easy. It's easy to memorize something if you understand why they're doing it. That is a lot of the reasons why I take my patterns apart and change them up, do different yarns, do different things. Is what I'm trying to do is learn why people do what they do in their knitting and crochet, so that I can change up the combinations and make my own variation of what I want to make. And so if you guys try that too, you will also grow. So I would venture to tell you that if you guys stretch a little bit and you try to do something that's a little new or a little different, you will be so thrilled. I can't tell you how thrilled you'll be. I have a friend, Kelley, and she is doing this Debbie Bliss pattern where she is doing this little baby sweater. And she needed to seam the shoulder seams on, or the top of the sleeves on to her sweater. So she had been doing it before where she was seaming and she was just kind of haphazardly going along. And she was not exactly excited about the outcome. So when she got to the sleeve part, she's like, can you please help me on it? So we went through it and we just carefully, I got her started and she was doing it on her own. And she was so proud of herself. She's like, I cannot believe that I can do something and it looks that beautiful. And it's like, of course you can, Kelley. You're a smart person. You can do this. You just have to put care into things and kind of understand why you're doing what you're doing, because then you'll be able to be more precise and you'll be able to make your project look even better. And so that's what I love doing when I'm doing new skills. I love learning why something is done. So if any of you have any questions as we're going along, please let me know and I'd be happy to answer them. And
Brenda says, make your goals realistic.
yes, totally realistic. Okay, and I am totally guilty of this because I tend to put the whole world on my list. I mean, I tend to put everything on there. And then I have to tell myself, no, because knitting and crochet is supposed to be fun. And if I shove too many things into a small area, then it's not as fun for me. I just feel hurried and I'm not relaxed when I'm doing. I'm just going, how fast can I get this done? And that's not fun either. So we don't want to do that. But we do want to enjoy our projects that we're doing, and we do want to get them done. And we do want them to be beautiful. The last thing I want to do when I finish a project is have to show someone and then start explaining how I messed something up. Oh, well, this got messed up because of this, or what have you. I don't like doing that. I will rip the whole project out and do it all over again if there's one little error in it. And that's because I want to, when I show it to someone, I don't want to be able to find a flaw anywhere if I can help it. I mean, sometimes there is a little flaw, and that's okay. It's all good. But I try my darndest to have no flaws because I want to be proud of what I'm making, and I want to be the very, very best at what I can do. And for me, for me to be the best person that I can be. And so that's why I do that. And I know a lot of people out there that don't care. They don't care if there's flaws in their projects, and that's great for them. But for me, that's who I am. I like mine to be as perfect as I can be because I'm striving to be as the best I can be at whatever I'm doing, whether it's knitting, crochet, running, biking, what have you. I just want to, try as hard as I can. Absolutely try as
There's a
hard
comment that a lot of people are afraid to ask.
What's
So they
that?
don't want. A lot of people are afraid to ask. They don't want to look dumb when they're in the knitting groups and stuff like that.
What questions?
They're afraid to ask, like if they're in their knitting with other people.
You guys, listen, we have a knitting group here at Alpaca Direct. And when you guys have a question about anything to do with knitting, don't be afraid to ask. There are so many knitters at our table, and they are so happy to be able to share with you, and they are so eager to feel like they're worthy of helping others. I can't tell you how many fellow knitters at our table that are just thrilled to be able to help you. So never be afraid to ask a question. I would venture to say that the only question that is a stupid question is a question that you never asked. Go ahead and ask those questions. We love helping each other, and we're friends. We're like family. At our knitting group, literally, if someone needed a ride home, or someone needs food, or someone needs anything, we are there to help each other. And don't forget, we have a wonderful VIP group on our Alpaca Direct, and it is filled with fantastic knitters and crocheters that are happy to answer questions. So if you don't have your own little knitting group, go to the VIP group. Oh my goodness, there's such talented ladies, and they're so humble. I don't think there's a mean bone anywhere there on our VIP group. And so don't be afraid to ask any question at all. And people will rack their brain to try and help you solve any problems that you might have. Yes, go ahead and ask questions. We want you to ask questions, and there is no stupid question, none whatsoever. As long as you ask it and get help, we're happy to help you. Also, Don't forget, when you're looking at your goals and what you want to achieve, make sure to surround yourself with people who can help you. Join the VIP group. Join your local knitting group. Come to Alpaca Direct, to our open knitting groups. We have Tuesday evening 6 to 8 p.m. and Thursday afternoon 1 to 3. And we are always available to help you out of a little jam. If you get stuck on something, maybe your stitch is twisted and you're still learning and you don't know how to identify a twisted stitch, or you know it's not right but you don't know how to fix it, come right in. We can help you fix it in about 2 seconds and you'll be out on your way and happily knitting again. So I would venture to say that we have goals that we're going to be setting and ones that we want to accomplish. Make sure to break those goals down into small bite-sized pieces and start plugging them into your calendar. Start putting them in here. Now, with your knitting and crochet goals, as well as with any of your goals, writing them down in the day planner doesn't mean that you're confined or that you're structuring it and you're taking the fun out of your knitting. You're not. What you're doing is you're learning. You are adding a little structure to your work, but it actually gives you freedom. When you learn these new skills and your bag is full of new tricks that you can pull out, you have so much more freedom than those who don't. Those people who say, I couldn't possibly learn that. I need to look that one up. Okay, those of you who need to look that one up, what do you do when you're in the middle of Montana going over a mountain and you're trying to work on your blanket and it says, how do you do a center double decrease? And you're going, I don't remember how to do that. I need to look that up. Well, guess what? You have no internet. So you're trapped. You got to wait. So that is not freedom. No, it is not. And if you learn it and you commit it to your memory, then when those little symbols come up in your knitting and you're knitting off of a chart per se, you will be able to fly right through it, because guess what? You know why your procedure that you're doing is being done the way that it's being done, and that is called freedom. Freedom, because you can just knit along your happy, merry way, and everyone else out there that has not committed all those things to memory is sitting there going, oh darn, I gotta wait because I don't know how to do it. So you, as you're going through your goals for the new year, make sure you add some knitting and crochet goals to your goal setting and learn some new skills and push yourself. See if you can get a few tricks of your own that you can teach other people. And remember, if you do teach others, you learn even more yourself. You get more out of it than the person that you're teaching. So go ahead and stretch and try and learn and see if you can set some goals and help other people. And don't forget, this week we had a custom quarter was for last week's prize, and for this week is my baggie. It's these little magnetic bags that are so cute, and they have the zipper tops, and all you have to do to win is enter your name, tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what you're working on. Hey, if you have some great patterns out there, we love to hear what they are, because we want to knit them too. We want to learn from you. And so we're all in this, game together, this knitting and crochet game. And so I love hearing from all of you, and I want to hear your ideas. So this last week's winner of our prize was Stephanie Zubal, and she won the custom quarters. So congratulations, Stephanie. So any of you out there, if you know Stephanie, let her know that she won, and all she has to do is give us her shipping address at alpacadirect.com, customer service at alpacadirect.com, and we can get this out in the mail. And she'll totally love it, because it makes this fantastic cord that I made with the booties this last week, and it's darling. So that was a great gift. And the gift for this week, one more time, is the My Baggie. And it's magnetic. And these are really cute little Notions baggies. And so that's the prize for this week. So you just let us know.
Tell about Evie and her hat.
Oh, yes. I wanted to tell you, very interesting. You know how a lot of people say for baby gifts we only do acrylics, and I know there are some moms out there that prefer to have the machine washable no matter what, but for Evie I use the Simply Crea, and
Tell them who Evie is. Something.
Evie is my granddaughter, and she was over on Christmas Eve, and I didn't use these colorways. I used different colorways that matched her jacket that she wears. Okay, so she's getting a little bit older. She's about 7 months old now, and she's getting to where she can pull her hat off her head. So my son, Brandon, put this hat on her head. It was an acrylic hat, and she ripped it right off. And so I had just given her hat that I had knit with the Simply Crea, and we put it on her head. And it was really interesting to see, because guess what? She left it on her head. She never ripped it off. So I thought that was pretty cool, because the acrylic one she wouldn't keep on her head, and the alpaca one she would. So anyways, food for thought. I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so all of you out there, I know that New Year's is coming up. You work on those New Year's resolutions and see and work on your goals for 2019. And may you have a wonderful New Year's. And think about all of those goal setting things that you can do that will improve your life. And next week, what we're going to be talking about, on Wednesday, January 2nd, we're going to be working. And we're going to be talking about how to write names and how to embellish your knitwear and crochetwear with different ways of writing names. So we're going to be talking about that. And you guys have a very happy New Year, and I will see you the day after. So you take care.